I'm going to demonstrate a way of thinking about music and then turning it into a form of notation, a form of graphic notation, a form of drawing really. And I'm just going to illustrate this first of all by a very simple exercise. I'm going to sing. Now please pardon my voice, I am not a singer, I don't pretend to be a singer, but I'm just going to show the connection between a familiar tune and mark making. Now I haven't practiced this, I must emphasize, I've only thought about it, I haven't practiced it, but I'm going to show you how this can work for me. La 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 da la 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 da lam da la 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 da la 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 da la 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 da la la da 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 lam ba da ba da ba dum bum bum ba 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 ba. Right, that'll do for the singing. Now what I've got there is just a load of squiggles, absolutely. But you can look at those squiggles and then think, give that to a musician. What will happen? Well, I can tell you what won't happen. You won't get da 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 di bum 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 or anything like that, because what's happened here is I have sung, heard sound, and I have immediately, without thinking particularly, translated it into physical movement, into gesture. And that is because I have embodied the sound and put it out through my physical actions onto paper. You can do this by listening to any piece of music on a stereo or live musicians, whatever, it doesn't matter. You can do it by thinking sound. There are all sorts of versions. But here, these lines look like sort of, well, I wouldn't call them random, I'd say they're fairly sort of organised. But this kind of mark making can underpin certain things in connection to landscape. So I'm going to show you something else. No music this time. Okay, 3 lines, 4 lines. What do we have? Something and nothing. But what I have, when I look at that, is a line that represents a horizon, a line that could represent a tree, and a line that represents a bit of detail. Now, I haven't thought about that. It's spontaneous, it's just gestural, it's just sort of come out. But if you look at this related to landscape and that, there are a few things that you notice. Look at that shape there, that curvy shape, curvy shapes, curvy shapes, curvy shapes. Lines, 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 lines. If you draw a line under some of these things, you can start to see them in a different context. You might imagine them possibly as buildings or bits of trees or hills, or it doesn't really matter. This is all very, very symbolic. The point I'm wanting to make is that by looking and by listening, you can translate what you see and what you hear into lines and shapes. And that this early connection is what plays part in my processes of moving between drawing, painting and composition, and also between seeing and composition. So it's just a little starting point, and you can try it yourself. I would recommend putting on a piece of music that you like, or a piece of music you don't know. That's probably the best thing, because then you can't preempt what's happening. When I was singing the Mozart thing, yes, I know the tune, I can hear the harmonies, blah, blah, blah. If you put on something that you don't know and just respond to the sound, then you will get an even better experience from that. But it's about embodying what you hear, what you see, and as I've been speaking about earlier, when you're walking, what you feel in your body. So if you go out on a walk, you can draw the landscape, but I don't mean a photographic kind of representation, I mean actually just drawing an impulsive, symbolic form of the landscape. You're rendering it down to the bare minimum, and you can do that, and what you have is a prototype of a musical score. How you deal with that, how you turn that into notation, whether you want to leave it like that, give it to a musician and say, okay, interpret that, and they can interpret it, or you want to look at some of these shapes and formalize them in different ways through notation, you can do that too. But these are the kinds of starting points that I use when I compose, and these are the starting points that I use when I paint as well, hence the connection between